Have you ever looked down on someone, only to discover they were never the problem? Chinedu believed his ex-wife's greatest shame was that she couldn't give him a child. He divorced her without mercy. He called her names. He let his family blame her. For years later, he was getting married again. This time, he wanted everyone to witness his happiness, especially the woman he had left behind. So he sent her a wedding invitation. Not because he wanted to make peace, but because he wanted to remind her of everything she had lost. On the morning of the wedding, Chinedu stood proudly in his white suit, smiling as guests filled the hall. His best man noticed he kept looking toward the entrance. "Are you expecting someone important?" he asked. Chinedu smiled confidently. "Yes," he replied. "My ex-wife." He laughed. "I want her to see what a complete family looks like." Minutes later, a black luxury SUV slowly drove through the gates. The groom smiled. "She's here," he whispered. But what stepped out of that vehicle would change his life forever. 4 years earlier, Chinedu and Adaeze were the couple everyone admired. They had a small apartment. They didn't have much money, but they had each other. Every evening, Adaeze would wait outside for her husband after work. They would laugh, cook together, and dream about the children they hoped to have one day. But as the months turned into years, those dreams slowly became a burden. 1 year passed. No pregnancy. Then another. Still nothing. At first, Chinedu said it didn't matter. "Our time will come," he would tell her. But his family thought differently. His mother never missed an opportunity to remind Adaeze. A woman who cannot give her husband a child has failed her home. Every visit became another round of insults. Every family gathering ended with whispers. Adaeze heard them all. But she remained silent. One evening, after another painful argument, she gently held Chinedu's hand. "Let's both go for a medical checkup," she said softly. "Maybe the doctors can help us understand what's happening." Chinedu immediately pulled his hand away. "There's nothing wrong with me," he snapped. "You're the one who can't give me a child." Adaeze stood there in tears. She wasn't asking him to take the blame. She only wanted them to face the problem together. But Chinedu had already made up his mind. He refused every suggestion. He listened more to his friends, more to his relatives, than to the woman who had stood beside him since the beginning. Then one afternoon, he walked into their home carrying divorce papers. Adaeze stared at the documents. Her hands trembled. "After everything we've shared," she whispered. "Is this really how it ends?" Chinedu didn't answer. He simply turned around and walked out of the house, believing he had just gotten rid of the biggest problem in his life. For weeks after the divorce, Adaeze barely left her house. Every room reminded her of the life she thought would last forever. She cried herself to sleep, wondering if Chinedu had been right all along. Maybe she really was the problem. But life has a strange way of introducing hope. When you've almost given up. About a year later, a close friend invited Adaeze to a charity dinner. She almost didn't go. But that one decision changed everything. That evening, she met Emeka, a quiet businessman. Respectful, kind, and unlike everyone else. He never asked why her marriage had failed. He never asked if she could have children. Instead, he asked about her dreams, the books she loved, the places she wanted to visit. For the first time in years, someone saw Adaeze, not her pain. Months passed. Their friendship became love. One evening, Emeka got down on one knee. "I don't want a perfect woman," he said. "I just want the woman who brings peace into my life." Tears filled Adaeze's eyes. She said yes. Their wedding was simple. No noise. No revenge. No social media. Just two people. Choosing each other. Then, less than a year into their marriage, something happened that Adaeze never imagined possible. She became pregnant. 9 months later, God blessed them with healthy triplets. 2 handsome boys. And 1 beautiful little girl. Every time she looked at her children, she remembered all the nights she had cried, believing she would never hear the word Mommy. Life had finally smiled at her again. She thought Chinedu was nothing more than a painful chapter. Until one unexpected message appeared on her phone. One quiet afternoon, Adaeze was helping her children with their lunch when her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. She opened it. Then she froze. It was a wedding invitation. The groom, Chinedu, her ex-husband. Attached to the invitation was a short message. Your presence will mean a lot to me. Adaeze smiled sadly. She knew exactly what it meant. Chinedu wasn't inviting her out of kindness. He wanted her to watch him marry another woman. He wanted everyone to see the woman he once called, unable to give him a child. She quietly locked her phone and walked away. That evening, she showed the invitation to Emeka. He read it carefully. Then looked at his wife. Do you want to go? Adaeze sighed. Part of me wants to ignore it. But another part of me feels like this chapter deserves a proper ending. Emeka smiled gently. Then let's go. Adaeze looked surprised. You mean, all of us? He laughed softly. Why should you hide your happiness? You've done nothing wrong. The triplets, who had been playing nearby, ran over excitedly. Mommy, where are we going? One of the boys asked. Adaeze smiled. To a wedding. The little girl clapped happily. None of them knew that before the day was over, one man's pride would completely fall apart. The wedding hall was already filled with guests. Music echoed through the venue. Friends laughed. Cameras flashed. Chinedu stood beside his bride, greeting everyone with a proud smile. Every few minutes, he glanced toward the entrance. His best man leaned closer and whispered, You're still waiting for her? Chinedu smirked. She'll come. Curiosity will bring her here. I want her to see that life moved on without her. Just then, a sleek black luxury SUV rolled slowly through the gates. The wedding guests turned to look. Chinedu smiled. She's finally here. The vehicle came to a stop. A driver stepped out and opened the rear door. First, Adaeze stepped out. She looked elegant. Calm. Confident. Nothing like the broken woman Chinedu remembered. He frowned slightly. Then another door opened. A tall, well-dressed man stepped out. He walked over to Adaeze with a warm smile. Before anyone could understand who he was, 3 little children climbed out of the SUV. 2 energetic boys. And 1 little girl with braided hair. They ran straight toward Adaeze. Mommy. The entire wedding hall went quiet. Chinedu's smile disappeared. The children hugged Adaeze tightly. Then they turned to the businessman. Daddy. The businessman laughed and lifted the little girl into his arms. Chinedu stared in disbelief. His lips trembled. No. He whispered. That can't be possible. Guests began whispering among themselves. Some looked at Chinedu. Others looked at Adaeze. Even the bride standing beside him looked confused. Chinedu slowly walked toward Adaeze. His voice shook. Whose children are these? Adaeze looked him in the eyes. She answered quietly. They are my children. Chinedu felt his knees weaken. No. You couldn't. Before he could finish, Emeka stepped forward. He placed one hand gently on Adaeze's shoulder, then looked directly at Chinedu. They are our children. The wedding hall fell into complete silence. The man who had invited his ex-wife to shame her was now the one everyone was staring at. Chinedu stood frozen. The whispers around the hall grew louder with every passing second. His new bride slowly turned to him. I thought you said she could never have children. Chinedu opened his mouth, but no words came out. His mother, who had proudly welcomed guests only moments earlier, lowered her head in embarrassment. Then, an elderly man slowly stood up from the front row. It was Dr. Okafor, a respected fertility specialist and an old family friend. He looked at Chinedu with disappointment. Do you remember coming to my clinic years ago? Chinedu's heart skipped. Of course he remembered. He had secretly gone for a fertility test after Adaeze begged him countless times. But before the doctor could explain the results, Chinedu stormed out. He had already convinced himself that nothing could possibly be wrong with him. Dr. Okafor continued. You never came back. You never listened. You blamed your wife before you even knew the truth. The hall became so quiet. You could hear a pin drop. Chinedu slowly looked at Adaeze. For the first time in years, he saw the pain she had carried alone. Tears filled Chinedu's eyes. Adaeze, I'm sorry. His voice cracked. I was wrong. Adaeze looked at him quietly. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't bitter. She had simply healed. The apology I needed, she said softly, was the one you should have given me when I still called you my husband. Chinedu lowered his head. He realized that some mistakes cannot be undone. He looked at the 3 children laughing beside Emeka. For a brief moment, he imagined the life he could have had. Not because Adaeze had changed, but because he had refused to trust, refused to listen, and refused to stand by the woman who loved him. Emeka gently held Adaeze's hand. Shall we go? She smiled. Yes. The triplets ran ahead, laughing as they made their way back to the SUV. Before getting inside, Adaeze turned back one last time. She looked at Chinedu. Not with hatred, but with peace. Then she quietly said, never punish someone for a problem you never had the courage to understand. She got into the car. The doors closed. The SUV slowly drove away. Chinedu remained standing at the entrance of his own wedding, watching the woman he had once humiliated disappear into the distance. He had invited her to witness his happiness. But instead, he was forced to witness the life he threw away with his own hands. Sometimes, pride destroys what love could have saved. If you were Adaeze, would you have attended that wedding? Let us know in the comments.